Why is it that in moments when we crave love the most, we often find ourselves drawn to people who unsettle us, challenge us, or awaken something we don't fully understand? Why do certain partners feel magnetic in a way that's almost fated, as if the universe placed them in front of us not for comfort, but for revelation? And deeper still, what if the very people we fall hardest for are not random at all, but mirrors, quietly reflecting the hidden corridors of our own psyche? As Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. And in love, this truth whispers the loudest. We often imagine attraction as a blend of chemistry, timing, and personality. But beneath the surface, beneath the smile, the spark, the familiar thrill, something older, something archetypal is at work. Jung called it the shadow, the parts of ourselves we deny, reject, or simply cannot see. And the astonishing secret is this: we don't just carry the shadow inside us, we are irresistibly attracted to it in others. Think of it like this: the qualities we run from within ourselves have a way of appearing in the people who captivate us. Their intensity mirrors our suppressed fire. Their unpredictability echoes our hidden chaos. Their emotional distance reflects the places we've abandoned inside our own hearts. We meet them and something clicks, not because they complete us, but because they expose us. This is not failure. This is not punishment. This is psychological gravity. In Jung's view, the shadow is not bad. It is simply the unlived life, the forgotten truth. And those we are drawn to often carry the very traits our soul is trying to reclaim. Attraction becomes a compass, pointing not to the person, but to the part of ourselves we are finally ready to meet. So today, we begin a journey into the quiet mystery of why we fall for partners who reflect our darkest inner landscapes. Not to judge ourselves, but to understand the sacred logic beneath these connections. Because once you see the shadow, really see it, your patterns no longer control you. You begin to choose differently. You love differently. And above all, you understand that every mirror appears for a reason. To understand why we fall for partners who mirror our shadow, we have to step gently into a truth most people avoid. Attraction isn't born in the light. It begins in the places we've forgotten, abandoned, or buried. Jung believed that the shadow forms not from darkness itself, but from everything we once needed to hide in order to survive. Our anger, our desire, our vulnerability, our power, our voice. Over time, these parts sink into the unconscious. But they don't disappear. They wait. And love, strangely, becomes the doorway through which they re-enter our lives. Have you ever met someone who stirred something deep inside you? Something both thrilling and unsettling? Someone who made you feel more alive and more exposed at the same time? That sensation isn't coincidence. It's recognition. As Carl Jung said, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. The transformation begins because the other person awakens a part of you that has been dormant. Maybe they are bold where you are careful. Maybe they speak truths you only whisper. Maybe their flaws look suspiciously like your own, only magnified. And suddenly, you feel pulled into their orbit as if destiny itself arranged the meeting. But here's the secret most people never uncover. We are not drawn to their light. We are drawn to our lost pieces reflected in them. In Jung's view, the psyche does not tolerate incompleteness. It seeks wholeness with relentless devotion. And so the shadow doesn't simply sit in the dark. It calls out to the world around us, magnetizing the people who can help us see what we have ignored. Attraction becomes a message. Look here. This is yours. Reclaim it. And yes, this can feel confusing. It can even feel painful. Because to face the shadow in another means confronting what we have refused to see in ourselves. But the moment we recognize this pattern, the moment we see that the people who challenge us are often delivering pieces of our own inner truth, everything begins to change. Instead of falling into old cycles, we start to awaken. Instead of blaming fate, we begin to understand it. And in this understanding, the journey toward conscious love quietly begins. To truly grasp why shadow mirroring partners feel so magnetic, we need to look at the hidden blueprint shaping our attractions long before we consciously choose anyone. Jung taught that the psyche is not random. It organizes itself around patterns, symbols, and unresolved truths. And one of the most powerful of these is the emotional script we inherit from childhood, a script we follow without even realizing it. Think of your early years as the stage where the psyche learns its first language. How love feels, how safety feels, how connection feels, and sometimes how chaos feels. These sensations don't disappear as we grow older. They become internal landmarks, shaping who feels familiar. And the familiar, even when it hurts, can feel strangely irresistible. This is where the shadow steps in. The parts of us that were discouraged, misunderstood, or shamed in childhood often become the very parts we bury. If emotional expression was unsafe, the expressive part becomes shadow. If strength was punished, the strong part becomes shadow. If tenderness was dismissed, the soft part becomes shadow. And later, without warning, we find ourselves drawn to people who carry those forgotten traits vividly, unapologetically, even chaotically. Jung believed that the psyche compensates for what is missing or hidden. Attraction often becomes the psyche's way of restoring balance. We are drawn not to what complements us, but to what completes our psychological equation. As Carl Jung said, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. And so our relationships often carry the pieces we are not yet ready to accept. This is why the person who triggers you might also fascinate you. Their intensity touches the part of you that has been muted. Their flaws remind you of your own unhealed edges. Their unpredictability echoes the emotional terrain you learned to navigate early in life, the same terrain your adult mind wants to avoid, but your unconscious seeks to resolve. Attraction, then, becomes both a memory and a mission. A memory of what shaped you, a mission to heal what you've hidden. But here's the gentle truth. The partner who mirrors your shadow isn't here to break you. They are here to reveal you. Whether they stay in your life or leave, their purpose is often initiatory. They open the door to the parts of yourself you are finally strong enough to reclaim. And that is where the real work begins. There comes a moment in every shadow-driven attraction when the initial spark gives way to something deeper, heavier, more revealing. It's the moment when the person you were drawn to begins to evoke emotions that feel disproportionate. Intense longing, inexplicable irritation, deep fear of loss, or waves of vulnerability you didn't know you carried. This is the threshold where the shadow stops whispering and starts speaking clearly. In Jung's view, emotional exaggeration is never random. He saw it as the psyche signaling that something unconscious is being activated. The stronger the reaction, the deeper the shadow that has been touched. So when a partner makes you feel suddenly unsteady, exposed, or too much, it isn't because they are extraordinary. It's because they are touching a wound you've kept carefully hidden. And here's where the mirror metaphor becomes almost painfully accurate. If you fear abandonment, you may be drawn to someone inconsistent. If you repress anger, you may fall for someone who expresses it freely. If you deny your desire for freedom, you might love someone you can never fully possess. These patterns don't arise because we are broken. They arise because the psyche is trying to restore wholeness through reflection. As Carl Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. The difficult partner becomes the teacher, not because they choose to be, but because your psyche recognizes an opportunity for integration. This is why shadow attractions often feel faded, like déjà vu wrapped in emotion. You sense you've been here before, not necessarily with the same person, but with the same feeling, the same ache, the same hope, the same fear. It's the psyche trying once again to resolve what was left unfinished. And yet, this is also where many people misinterpret the experience. They believe that the intensity means this must be love or this must be my soulmate. But Jung would say the intensity means something different. This must be a mirror, not of the person you desire, but of the part of you that desires healing. Seeing this clearly changes everything. Instead of spiraling into old patterns, you begin to understand that what you feel is not just about them. It's about you, your story, your history, your unintegrated truths. And once the mirror becomes visible, the possibility of transformation finally arrives. To understand the full power of shadow-driven attraction, we must explore one of Jung's most transformative ideas, projection. According to Jung, when we cannot hold certain qualities within ourselves, we place them onto others without realizing it, like casting a film onto a blank screen and mistaking the image for reality. In relationships, this projection becomes the silent architect of our desire, shaping not only who we choose, but who we believe they are. As Jung wrote, projection changes the world into the replica of one's own unknown face. And nowhere is this more evident than in love. When you meet someone new, you don't see them clearly. You see the parts of yourself you've exiled. Their charisma may be your unclaimed confidence. Their emotional distance may reflect your own fear of intimacy. Their sensitivity may mirror the tenderness you don't allow yourself to feel. They become both person and symbol, both lover and hidden truth. This is why the beginning often feels enchanted, not because the other person is flawless, but because they are carrying your unconscious ideals and wounds. Without knowing it, you hand them pieces of your psyche and ask them to hold what you cannot yet hold yourself. But projections have weight, and eventually, the person collapses beneath them. This collapse is often where the disappointment phase begins, when the partner who once felt magical suddenly feels human. Their imperfections become visible. Their choices no longer align with the script your unconscious wrote for them. You may begin to feel betrayed, but the betrayal is not theirs. It is your psyche reclaiming its projections. And this is the moment where everything can shift. Because instead of asking, why are they like this? The deeper question becomes, why did I need them to be something else? In Jung's view, projection is not a mistake, it's an invitation. It reveals what you are ready to integrate. When you withdraw your projections, something extraordinary happens. The fog lifts. You begin to see the partner as they truly are, not as an embodiment of your shadow or your longing. And you begin to see yourself more clearly too. This clarity is the beginning of inner freedom. It's the moment you stop searching for yourself in someone else. And it's where conscious love, real love, first becomes possible. Once the projections begin to fall away, something unexpected happens. The relationship, whether it continues or ends, starts revealing its deeper purpose. What once felt like chaos now begins to feel like curriculum. The intensity that overwhelmed you becomes a guide, pointing toward the parts of yourself you have not yet integrated. And the partner who mirrored your shadow transforms from a source of confusion into a kind of psychological messenger. Jung believed that the shadow is never just a container for what we fear. It is also the wellspring of our greatest potential. The same qualities we suppress in ourselves often hold our creativity, our passion, our courage, our intuition. As Carl Jung said, in the dark we find the light, and in the light we find the dark. The psyche hides its treasures in the same place it hides its wounds. This is why shadow mirroring partners often awaken more in us than gentler, easier relationships ever could. They ignite our edges. They push us to confront our self-deceptions. They stir emotions that force us to look inward, not because they are perfect guides, but because their presence activates the exact lesson our soul is ready to learn. Perhaps you've noticed this. The partner who triggers your insecurity reveals your need for self-worth. The partner who overwhelms you with passion exposes your buried vitality. The partner who challenges your boundaries teaches you where your yes ends and your no must begin. These revelations don't arrive softly. They arrive like truth always does, inconvenient, undeniable, liberating. And yet, there is a bittersweet beauty to this process. Jung taught that every encounter with the shadow is an encounter with the self, the deeper, wiser, more complete version of who you are becoming. The people who reflect your darkness are also helping you reclaim your light. Their presence forces you to gather your scattered pieces and bring them home. This is why some relationships feel impossibly important, even if they don't last. They are initiations, thresholds, psychological rites of passage. They mark the moment when life stopped being about seeking external completion and started being about inner integration. And once you begin to see the shadow's gifts, the entire landscape of love starts to shift. You are no longer helpless before your patterns. You are no longer mesmerized by your projections. You begin to see attraction not as fate, but as feedback, the psyche guiding you toward wholeness. When this awareness dawns, something deep inside you begins to steady. The storm that once swept you away becomes a wind you can finally stand in. There comes a quiet moment in every journey with the shadow when you realize something profound. The pattern is not happening to you. It is happening for you. The people who once felt like irresistible forces of fate begin to look different. You start to notice the familiar emotional hooks before they pull you in. You sense the repetition, the déjà vu, the energetic signature of a story you've lived many times. This moment is not small. It is the beginning of liberation. Carl Jung believed that what we do not make conscious repeats itself in our lives as destiny. When you become aware of your shadow patterns, you interrupt the automatic loop. You begin to see the trigger points, the emotional magnets, the subtle psychological choreography that once controlled you without your consent. And here's what's astonishing. The very partners who mirrored your shadow are the reason you can now see it. For the first time, you recognize the internal voice that says, "I can fix them." You recognize the tug toward emotional unavailability. You recognize the thrill that comes from intensity rather than intimacy. You recognize the ache of old wounds disguised as present-day love. Awareness doesn't instantly dissolve the attraction, but it changes your relationship to it. Instead of diving headfirst into the familiar fire, you pause. You breathe. You observe. And in that space, something Jung cherished begins to emerge, the capacity to choose. This is the moment the psyche shifts from compulsion to consciousness. You begin to understand that the shadow isn't asking you to relive the same story. It's asking you to write a new one. The qualities you once projected outward begin to feel like seeds you can now nurture within yourself. The intensity that once swept you away becomes a signal rather than a destiny. And you realize that you're no longer searching for the person who mirrors you. You're searching for the person who meets you. This transition is subtle but monumental. It marks the evolution from unconscious attraction to conscious connection, from shadow-driven patterns to soul-driven choices, from losing yourself in another person to standing firmly in your own center. In Jung's view, this is the true beginning of individuation, the moment you stop being fragmented and start becoming whole. And once this shift happens, your heart no longer chases its wounds. It gravitates toward what nourishes it instead. This is how cycles break. This is how new futures begin. This is how the shadow becomes your ally rather than your architect. Once the shadow's lessons begin to integrate, something subtle yet extraordinary awakens within you. You start to feel a new presence, not outside, but inside. Jung called this presence the inner partner, the animus in women, the anima in men. It is the psychological counterpart that carries the qualities we once sought desperately in others. And when this inner figure begins to mature, the entire landscape of attraction transforms. As Carl Jung said, the meeting with oneself is, at first, the meeting with one's own shadow. But after the shadow is faced, something even more profound emerges, a deeper selfhood capable of holding strength, tenderness, clarity, and purpose from within. For many people, this is the first time they feel truly whole. The hunger for external validation lessens. The urgency for someone to complete you dissolves. The emotional volatility that once dictated your relationships calms. And suddenly, the partners you used to choose, the ones who inflamed your wounds, no longer feel like destiny. They feel like echoes of a past self who was still searching outward for what had not yet been found inward. You begin to sense a new kind of attraction arising, one rooted not in intensity, but in resonance. Not in shadow mirroring, but in mutual awareness. Jung believed this shift was essential for what he called the inner marriage, the integration of masculine and feminine energies within the psyche. It is the union that gives birth to psychological sovereignty. This inner marriage is not romantic. It is transformational. It is the moment you realize you no longer chase strength because you have cultivated your own. You no longer cling to passion because you've awakened your inner fire. You no longer fear abandonment because you've learned to stay with yourself. This is the turning point where your inner partner grows more vivid than any projection. You feel supported internally, guided internally, met internally. And that internal meeting dissolves the old gravitational pull toward people who reflect your shadow rather than your soul. For the first time, you don't need someone to be your mirror. You can finally be your own witness. And from this place of inner wholeness, the heart opens in a new way, quietly, steadily, without desperation. You begin to understand that love is no longer about seeking what is missing. Love becomes the expression of a self that is finally, beautifully, enough. When the inner partner awakens and the shadow integrates, something remarkable begins to happen in the outer world. Your relationships shift. Not because people change, but because you do. The energy you emit, the boundaries you hold, the clarity you embody, all of it transforms the kind of love you attract. Jung believed that when the unconscious becomes conscious, life reorganizes itself around your new level of awareness. And nowhere is this more evident than in how you choose a partner. Gone are the days when intensity felt like destiny. Gone are the days when unresolved wounds masqueraded as passion. Gone are the days when the familiar ache of your past dictated who you let into your heart. Now, something softer, yet infinitely wiser, guides you. You begin to notice the quiet magic of emotional safety, the beauty of being seen without having to perform, the gift of connection that doesn't demand you abandon yourself. This is the beginning of what many call the conscious relationship, but Jung would describe it simply as a union between two individuated souls. A relationship where neither partner is looking to be completed, rescued, or validated. Instead, both come together with open eyes, steady hearts, and a shared devotion to growth. And here's the paradox many never expect. When you no longer need someone to mirror your shadow, you become capable of experiencing a deeper, more grounded form of love. A love that isn't born from longing, but from presence. A love that isn't fueled by fear, but by truth. A love that doesn't recreate your wounds, but helps you evolve beyond them. In Jung's view, this is the point where eros, the archetype of relational energy, transforms from blind passion into conscious union. The fire is still there, but it no longer burns you. It warms you. It illuminates you. It guides you forward instead of pulling you backward. And because you have met your own darkness, you no longer fear the shadows within another person. You understand them. You hold them with compassion, without losing yourself in them. Love becomes a meeting of two worlds, not a collision of unmet needs. This is the dawn of a new paradigm of intimacy, one where the soul, not the shadow, chooses the partner. One where clarity replaces confusion. One where love becomes a path of expansion, not a battlefield of projections. You stand at the threshold of a different future. A future you could not have entered before you met and integrated your own shadow. So here we are, at the end of this quiet journey through the shadow, the heart, and the hidden architecture of attraction. And maybe now you can sense something you couldn't feel at the beginning, that every person who stirred your deepest emotions was never a mistake, never a detour, never a cosmic error. They were messengers, mirrors, thresholds, each one carrying a fragment of your own psyche back to you, asking to be seen, understood, reclaimed. As Carl Jung said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And you have done exactly that. By looking at the patterns, by tracing the emotional echoes, by understanding the magnetism of the shadow, you have stepped into a deeper conversation with yourself. Maybe now you feel the gentleness of truth settling in. You weren't broken for choosing the wrong people. You weren't foolish for falling into familiar stories. You were simply answering the psyche's ancient call toward wholeness. Because attraction is not random, it is symbolic. Pain is not punishment, it is initiation. And the shadow is not your enemy, it is your unclaimed power. When you recognize this, you return to yourself in a way that feels almost sacred. You stop searching for someone to fill the silent spaces within you. You stop confusing intensity with destiny. You stop mistaking old wounds for present-day love. Instead, you begin to choose with clarity, with softness, with a steady heart that finally understands its own language. And the world responds. New kinds of people appear. New forms of connection emerge. New pathways open. Ones that were invisible when the shadow was still directing the script from behind the curtain. This is the quiet miracle of individuation. You come home to yourself, and in doing so, you attract relationships that meet you, not complete you. The love that enters your life from this place is not born from longing, but from resonance. Not from projection, but from presence. Not from fear, but from freedom. So if you've ever wondered why certain people felt like destiny, why certain lessons repeated, why certain heartbreaks cut so deeply, now you know. It was never just about them. It was always about you. About the parts of your soul waiting patiently in the dark, whispering, "See me, integrate me, become whole." And now you are. If this journey opened something inside you, stay close. There are more paths to explore, more truths to uncover, more light to find within the very places you once turned away from. Because the shadow doesn't disappear when embraced, it transforms. And so do you.